Everyone assumed Hannah Martin had been abducted from her room, but no one asked why her mother bought a new sports car the day after she disappeared. This all started with a little girl named Hannah Martin. She was the first of many missing person posters. Hannah, a well-known Girl Scout who was always seen selling her cookies outside the supermarket, had been at home, safe and sound with her mom and dad, cozy as could be before her disappearance. I still remember that day, how shocked everyone was finding out that at some point during that cold December night, the 8-year-old girl had completely vanished from her bedroom while her parents slept across the hall. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, footprints, not even a stray hair. Pretty much everyone in town thought the parents had something to do with it. There were whispers around town as the investigation pressed on, and it eventually reached a boiling point when Mr. and Mrs. Martin were completely ostracized from their church. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that right after the disappearance, Mrs. Martin was seen driving a flashy new sports car, dripping in exuberant red paint, while she wore a smile you'd think impossible for a grieving mother. Or perhaps it was the father, Mr. Martin, who began picking up tabs for anyone who asked down at the local pub. Though it was whispered, it was no secret that the Martins had seemed to upgrade their lifestyle completely, specifically after the disappearance of their daughter. Not long after being turned away by their church, the Martins became reclusive. Not much reason to speak to people who believe you sold your daughter. Little Hannah Martin's missing person posters haunted the town. They were everywhere, on every light post and convenience store door, parking lots filled to the brim, and a photo of Hannah tucked under the wiper blades of every single car. At the height of the search for Hannah, another kid went missing. This time, it was a boy named Matthew Gilfrey. However, Gilfrey hadn't disappeared under the cover of darkness like Hannah had. Matthew had vanished from the playground at school under the supervision of several teachers who had been outside for recess. The story goes that the children were playing hide-and-go-seek. Matthew was a hider and was last seen running off towards the bushes right at the edge of the playground's perimeter. One by one, each child was found by the seeker as the time for recess quickly dissipated. As time ran out and teachers began calling their classes back for lineup, Matthew was nowhere to be found. Minutes turned into hours, and by the end of the school day, the police presence around the school had become the top story of the day. "Another child missing," read the headlines. "Boy vanishes from schoolyard." The Gilfreys made an appearance on the 6 o'clock news, begging for the return of their son with solemn looks on their faces. Their eyes looked distant, is the best way I can describe it. "Please, Matthew, wherever you are, please know that Mommy and Daddy miss you very much," cried Mrs. Gilfrey. Her husband followed up with a stout, "We'll find you, son, I promise." It was hard not to feel sympathy. I didn't know the Gilfreys personally, but they, as well as the Martins, were living a parent's worst nightmare. The weeks that followed were filled with press reports and interviews, both from the Gilfreys and the Martins. Much like the Martins, the Gilfreys seemed to begin a life of luxury as well. They were much more subtle about it, however. While their child was gone somewhere, possibly dead, the Gilfreys decided to take a trip to Hawaii. "My husband and I are simply trying to get away from the horrible memories that are forming here at home," Mrs. Gilfrey told reporters. "We have every right to seek peace in such trying times." With yet another child missing, Hannah's posters had begun to fade away, replaced with Matthew's snaggletooth smile printed in black and white. On the 1-month anniversary of Matthew's disappearance, another child went missing. I can't quite remember her name. You'll have to forgive me. After this one, things started to go downhill fast. Every week there were new posters being spread around town. The police could hardly keep up with the mess, and people had begun to leave town in flocks. Most that stayed either didn't have children to begin with, or were missing one. The air grew thick with tension within my small town. Classrooms grew smaller and smaller, eventually getting so small that 2 elementary schools had to merge together. Not only were civilian children going missing, sons and daughters of law enforcement officers were also dropping off the face of the earth. As the months dragged on, the whispers around town had pretty much completely died down. No one seemed to care anymore. The cops, the teachers, the parents, everyone just sort of accepted what was happening. It was as though everyone had moved on within the span of a few short months. That is, until the email was sent out. Though most of the town's residents pretended that these events hadn't transpired, there were a select few that wouldn't let it go. All just as confused as I was. On March 3rd, 2024, at exactly 3:56 p.m., thousands of people received an email notification that turned all of our minds inside out and essentially confirmed what we had already known. A simple link sent by a user with a Hotmail address. Ashley's Puppet Show is all that the link read. Clicking on it redirected you to a webcam that displayed live footage of a stage dimly lit by the floor lights. The footage went on for about 5 minutes, just a still video of the wooden stage and velvet curtains. There was a sudden flash of light, and immediately the entire stage became illuminated with bright theater lights. Welcome, everybody, to Ashley's Puppet Show. First and foremost, I'd like to give a big thank you to the parents of Gainesville for making this show possible. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The female voice was dramatic and haunting at the same time. But what happened next is what will stick with me for the rest of my life. Prancing onto stage, puppeteered by fixed steel wires, was the decomposing corpse of little Hannah Martin. Her mouth had been slit down to the chin on each corner of her lips, and it hung open unnaturally while her vacant eyes glared down at the stage floor. I'm a little Girl Scout, short and stout. Ashley cut my tongue, and now I can't shout. The sounds of popping joints and stretching flesh echoed from the stage as the wires pulled at her body limbs, making her dance in exaggerated movements that made bile rise in my stomach. I have a pal, a buddy, a friend. His name is Matt, and he met his end. From the left side of the stage, little Matthew entered in the same manner. It was clear his throat had been cut, and blood still stained the base of his neck and collar. "Hiya, Hannah!" cried the voice, mimicking the sound of a little boy. "Are you ready to have fun?" "You know it, Matt. Say, what should we do first?" "Well, Hannah, I think I want to fly." On cue, the wires lifted Matthew's corpse off the stage and threw him around in the air above Hannah. "Look at me, Hannah! I'm a butterfly!" Hannah clapped rigorously as the offstage voice cheered on. "How fun!" There was a quiet creaking on screen before Matthew's cords snapped and he plummeted face first onto the stage floor with a dull oomph. What followed was a momentary silence before Hannah reacted. "Uh-oh," she cried. "Matthew looks pretty hurt, huh, guys?" She turned and stared directly into the camera, as if waiting for a phantom audience. "Come on, Hannah, help me up," pleaded Matthew. "Nuh-uh, you're just going to have to lay there, you silly butterfly." Hannah slapped her own face in a grotesque giggling gesture. "Aw, nuts," mumbled Matthew. "Well, while I'm down here, I have to ask, are those more friends I see beneath the stage?" Those words made my heart drop into my stomach because I knew exactly what they meant. "Yep, aren't you so excited to play with them?" "P.U., these guys smell," shouted Matthew. "We're going to have to get them ready for our next show." I closed my laptop before the footage could continue. I just sat there, feeling shock radiate throughout my body. Though my laptop was closed, sound still came from its speakers. Be sure to join us next time here at Ashley's Puppet Theater. Do it for the kiddos. I was positive that this footage would find its way to the news. I was positive that everyone in town would know that these children were now deceased. But it didn't. There was no mention of it, not on social media, not on television, not even in the papers. It were as though the media decided to completely ignore what was happening. Each week, a new episode of Ashley's Puppet Show broadcasted to parents all across town, each more grotesque and disturbing than the last. Yet no one cares. And all I can feel is regret. Regret that I, a loving father of two beautiful little boys, accepted a payment. I had signed the contract and had been swayed by Ashley's promises, and now my own children were missing, and I regretted that I knew exactly where they had gone. They belonged to Ashley now, just like the other kids. Whoever she was, she had purchased nearly every child in town, and mine were the most recent. David, Lucas, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I love you two so much, and I am a fool who is likely going to burn in hell for my greed. Please, whoever is reading this, please forgive me. Someone forgive me. Anyone. But the thing is, I know this request is fruitless. I am not deserving of forgiveness. None of us are. Not when we are the ones who made Ashley's Puppet Show possible.